Bitcoin to $1 million. I know. Every video is like, to the moon. That's not this video, okay? What we're gonna do in this video is we're gonna answer the question, can Bitcoin actually hit $1 million? And when, because of a few very, very specific things that are happening right now and that are happening this week, okay? So you need to watch this video right now if you wanna know, is this even possible? Because there's a lot of crap happening in the world, right? We have Sri Lanka protests. They're sick of inflation, so they're rioting and they're taking over the entire government. We have these Dutch farmers who are getting screwed over by the government and they are rioting and they are pouring manure on everything. We have these Chinese people that are running on their banks. They're trying to get their money out of the banks and they cannot because the currency is out of control crazy. We have a housing crisis here in the United States where, not a crisis, but the builder sentiment and the housing market is crashing in the US. This guy went through every single market: Atlanta, Austin, Birmingham, Boise, Charlotte, Colorado Springs, Dallas. He went through all of them, and guess what? Housing is crashing too. And in the face of all of that, we have the dollar, which is going straight up into the right. The dollar is now equal to €1. It hasn't been like that in years, guys. We have Bitcoin at $19,000. So why in the hell, with all of this craziness happen, the dollar going crazy, all of this crazy stuff happening in the world left and right, would this guy, Arthur Hayes, think that Bitcoin could go to $1 million? Well, he says right here that the doom loop has begun. 1 USD equals €1. Prepare yourselves for yield curve control and Bitcoin hitting $1 million. But please be patient, these things take time. Is this something that is true? That is what we're gonna answer in this video. Can Bitcoin actually hit $1 million? And can all of this craziness that we are watching in the world right now end up playing out in a way where Bitcoin hits $1 million? If you're ready for that, I need you to do one thing. Smash the like button. Smash the freaking like button. All you have to do is go down here and just smash it. For the love of Pete, just smash it right here. Thank you so much. That would really, really help me. And share this with one person. Just think about in your head right now, who's one person who would benefit from buying some Bitcoin at $19,000 and seeing it eventually go to $1 million, if that's what we're gonna determine here today. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? I think this is gonna be a good video. Okay. Last but not least, if you're interested in NFTs, we have an NFT project. It's very cheap. It's 0.1 Ethereum right now. So it's amazing. I show all of my trades live in the Discord. You have a great community that can help you navigate this market. It's one of the best NFT projects on the market because it's so simple. It is a community of people that wants to help each other, wants to get better together, wants to conquer this market together, okay? And so we have a ton of cool stuff coming for this. I don't want to get into all the details. We actually have a ton of stuff that's already been launched as well. Again, it's linked below every video. I would encourage you just to check it out. I know you won't be disappointed. Okay, let's get on with it. The backdrop to all of this obviously is the national debt. We have $30 trillion in debt. I know a lot of people, like, your eyes glaze over when you hear $30 trillion in debt, but that's a lot of money. And as the government raises interest rates, what's going to happen is if they continue to raise interest rates, they're not going to be able to pay the interest on their debt. So that's the backdrop, right? We know that the government is stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? They cannot slow down the money printer enough. If they slow down the money printer and raise interest rates too high, the United States government will default on its debt. That is not an outcome that is going to happen. So at the end of the day, we know that Bitcoin, that's a simple argument, right? For Bitcoin going to $1 million, is that we know that the government has to print the money, otherwise they will go bankrupt. So eventually, yes, I think we all kind of agree that Bitcoin could go to $1 million, right? I think if you're watching this video, you probably believe in crypto. You think that in 10 years, 20 years, could Bitcoin be $1 million? Of course, right? Of course. It's just the way that this is going to end up playing out because they're stuck. They're never going to pay this off. The only way to pay this off is to print the money. When you print money, guess what happens to Bitcoin, right? It goes up. Everyone knows this. So I'm not going to belabor that point, but what I'm more interested in is, like, could this happen sooner, right? Could Bitcoin actually go to $1 million in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? I think that's kind of what Arthur Hayes is saying here. And so the first thing we need to investigate here to see if his claim is true is the DXY, right? So what we're seeing is something very, very interesting. We're seeing the dollar go parabolic. We're seeing the dollar. So you're probably thinking, if you're new and you don't understand crypto, you're probably thinking, like, how can the dollar go up in value? It's worth $1. Well, that's the thing, right? The dollar is measured against other currencies. Remember when, you're probably not old enough to remember this, okay? And neither am I. But the dollar used to be worth something. It used to be you could trade in a dollar for a bar of gold. right? In 1971, go look it up. They decided to say, nope, you can't do that anymore. You cannot trade a dollar for any amount of gold, okay? So what that did is it just made all these currencies in the world, the euro, the reason you're seeing all this, China's bank runs, these people can't get their money out of the bank, the yuan, whatever the currency these Dutch people are using, the Sri Lankan currency, all of these currencies, right? They basically just float around and compare the price to each other. So if you look at a chart like this, you'll see exactly what I mean. It's called the Euro USD chart. So the euro is going down in value compared to, guess what? The dollar. This is what you call a doom loop. If you would have went to Europe like 3 months ago, like I did, I went to Spain, right? A euro was stronger than a dollar. So I had to spend more dollars to buy the same amount of euros, right? Now, what Arthur Hayes is saying is $1 equals 1 euro. So why is this happening? Why is the dollar getting so strong? And it's kind of funny when you think about it that the dollar is getting so strong when what happened last year, right? All we did was print trillions of dollars out of thin air, right? And so the second that we decide to kind of slow down, like we haven't even really slowed down the printing yet, it's pretty funny. Like it is honest. That's how bad the situation is if you really think about it. The Federal Reserve is like, hey, we're going to kind of slow down the money printer. And the dollar does this. And they haven't even done anything yet. And so that makes me think that this is so fragile, right? That we could get to higher prices sooner because it's so, like, they haven't even done anything. They basically said, hey, we're going to raise interest rates. And they've raised it like twice. They barely raised interest rates. However, the dollar is going absolutely crazy compared to other currencies because everyone else is printing so much money, okay? China's printing so much money. The yuan is printing so much money. The Dutch are printing so much money. The Sri Lankans are printing so much money. The euro is printing so much money. And so when we slow down and stop printing as much money, guess what happens? The dollar goes to the moon. Okay, and so this is the start of something very, very interesting. And what I think is going to play out here is that the euro is just totally screwed. Like it's going to be absolutely screwed. And like there's Arthur explained this a little bit better, but I kind of tried to summarize it here for brevity's sake. But like the euro is screwed. Right? When you think about it, like in the United States, right? We have all of these states. We have Iowa, Pennsylvania, New York, whatever, Florida, right? And we all use the dollar, but we're all in one country, right? We all sort of supposedly have the same values, even though that's getting more and more divided lately, right? But in Europe, you have like totally different languages, totally different countries. Like you could go from Spain to France to Belgium and they would be speaking different languages, right? Like you go from Spain to France, you're literally speaking a different language, a totally different culture. It's completely different, right? It's not like going from Iowa to Nebraska, right? It's totally different, but they're using the same currency. So what Arthur is saying here is what happens when each individual country panics and they want out of the euro? What if the euro continues to crash against the dollar? What does that mean? I mean, if you think about it simply, I know this can get very complicated, and a lot of people will try to make it seem confusing, but it's not that confusing. Like, just think about it in terms of what you understand, right, in the US. Imagine that you're in Iowa, right, or Pennsylvania, or whatever state that you live in, right, and you want to go to the state next to you, Ohio or Florida or whatever. But when you go to that state, everything is like double as expensive, right? You can't go to Walmart. You can't go to Chick-fil-A because a Chick-fil-A sandwich is now $16 because all you did was go across the border, right? Would that piss you off? Of course that would piss you off, right? That is what is happening with the euro. Eventually, if this continues to dump, which I think it could, it definitely could, what is going to happen is that these other countries are going to get pissed off. They're going to say to themselves, like, we can't do this anymore. It's like watching a movie when money dies, right? And Spain will say, nope, we're going to do our own currency again. France is going to be like, nope, we're going to go back and do our own currency. Germany, we're going to do our own currency, right? All of these countries that are on one currency, they're going to be like, no, F this. I'm not dealing with you. You're printing too much money. This is not working. We're going to do our own thing. And that is what Arthur Hayes is saying here about a doom loop. He is saying that once this cracks, which it looks like it's cracking, these other countries are going to go back to their own currencies, and they're also going to flee those currencies to hard money, which is Bitcoin. They're going to try to buy something like gold or Bitcoin that cannot be printed, that cannot be manipulated, that cannot be changed. And it makes perfect sense, guys. It really does. If you were in Iowa and your currency started to just drop and you couldn't go to Ohio and buy anything, you would say, I need to sell this currency that I'm using in Iowa, right? And buy some freaking Bitcoin so that I can maintain my purchasing power, right? So that is what he's talking about here for the doom loop. And that's where all of this argument begins to start. And so does this actually make sense? Would this actually play out? You know, and that's kind of what I've been going through. But I really do believe like we're gonna see this play out, and it's almost inevitable because Europe is screwed as far as like their economy. They're in just as bad of a place as us, which is why their euro is dropping. However, they don't have control over each individual country to the same degree that the US does, right? The US has more control over their money. So we are going to be able to, even though we are, you know, the ones printing all the money, we still have all the power right now, right? So we are going to be able to control this whole doom loop, and it's probably going to lead to a lot of havoc in Europe and a lot of people buying Bitcoin, okay? But let's back up from this for a second. I got some other stuff to talk about too. Let's talk about in the US, okay? Think about this. Read this thread if you get a chance. It's by Jordy Alexander. He's talking about the game theory of how this all plays out, right? And so he's saying the USD is too strong. We talked about that just a second ago, right? When the dollar goes up, everything breaks, right? So either we're going to have to help some other countries, or the other countries are just going to break because our dollar is getting too strong. Every time this has happened in history, guys, I promise you something breaks. We are almost to the level of something breaking, okay? So he's saying the dollar is too strong. The economy is headed for a downturn. We need to ease, but we can't because of inflation. So the easiest way to get out of this situation for everybody involved, for the whole world to just kind of be peaceful, is to just print money, right? Like if we could just print the money, get the dollar back down to $1, just print some extra dollars and say, we're going to devalue the dollar, right? Just kidding. We're not going to go to 108. We're going to go back to $1. That would help things. However, we can't do that because inflation is too high. Everyone's worried about inflation, right? So here's the solution. We print the dollars. However, it goes through UBI and handouts to the lower class. So for those of you guys who don't know what this is very simple. The last time that we printed money, you guys remember this, right? Hopefully you remember this because you were in Bitcoin. I pray to God you were. But the last time, oh my gosh, my chart is so dirty here. Let me clean this up. So if you look at this, guys, remember when Bitcoin went from like freaking nothing? Like here's COVID right here. You can barely see it on the chart, right? Here's COVID, and here's what happened after they printed money. So the first time they printed money, they gave the money to the rich people, okay? They printed off all this cash and they gave it to the rich. They did this by just putting liquidity into stocks and assets, okay? So all assets, including stocks, went to the moon. People didn't like this. The people that are voters, the voters in the November elections did not like this because guess what? It didn't make them rich. They don't own any stocks. They don't own any Bitcoin. All it did was it made inflation go up. And so they can't do this again. They cannot just pump assets to the moon. So what they're going to do instead is to make the voter base happy because we have November elections coming up, remember? They are going to give soft UBI and handouts. What this means is for the people that do not own assets, the people that are at the bottom half of America, okay, I know this, there's no other way to say this, the people that are not in the elite class, right? They're going to give out gas stimulus checks. They're going to give out food stimulus checks. And I summed it up right here, okay? All of this is going to lead to Bitcoin. We have the dollar up. We have the world economy down. Inflation is still high, but the Fed can't directly print and make the rich richer again like they already did, okay? Instead, they're going to give gas and food stimulus checks to the voter base before the November elections. This is going to happen. If you just Google gas stimulus, it's already happening, okay? Gas stimulus. It's already happening. They're already talking about it. They're going to do it, okay? When will you receive these direct payments? That's all they care about. Like it's sad, but people are not educated. They don't know, okay? Sure, they think inflation's bad. The only reason they think inflation is bad is because they go to the gas pump and they can't afford gas, right? But if you start giving people money for gas, that problem kind of just disappears, right? So that's the easiest way out for these stupid politicians, right? The easiest way for them to get out of this is just they need to print the money, but they can't give it to the rich people. So instead, they're just going to give it to the poor people, okay? So they're just going to give gas and food stimulus checks to certain people, and they're going to try to buy votes for November. This is what is going to happen. I'm telling you this right now. So the world, and this is how this all plays out. You ready? You ready for it all to connect? This is going to blow your mind right here. The world is going to get sick of this, okay? And the world is going to get sick of funding our United States handouts. Now, you're probably thinking, what does that even mean? Think about it. Think about it, okay? You have the dollar that goes through the roof, okay? The dollar is absolutely mooning, which means that the other currencies are getting crushed, right? Which means the other economies are getting crushed. I showed you that as the dollar goes up, the euro goes down, which means that all of Europe gets crushed. This sucks for Europe, right? So imagine this really sucks to be in Europe, okay? And you read in the news that gas stimulus checks and all this free money is just getting sent out in the United States. What happens then? Think about that. Those countries are going to get absolutely sick and effing tired of living in this world where the US gets to have all this power. They get to print whatever they want to print. They get to give money to the poor people. They get to give money wherever they want to give it. And all it does is hurt them. They're going to get sick of this. So I don't know if this is going to happen in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But I do know that they are done with the US. China, Russia, Europe, all of these countries, they don't want to be dependent on the dollar anymore, okay? And so my theory is that they're going to transition to Bitcoin, okay? Now, I wrote here, I recognize that there are probably 35 other steps here. They could transition to the euro or the yuan. They could transition to a different currency so they're not dependent on the dollar. But the real argument against that is, are they going to have time? Are they going to have time to negotiate, right? Because if you're going to imagine like the whole world runs on dollars right now, right? We all can agree. If you need to buy oil over here, you need to use dollars. If you have debt in this country, if Brazil has debt with China, guess what? They're settling that debt in United States dollars because it's just a currency that it's the world reserve currency, okay? So in order to switch that, they would have to have all these meetings, all the world leaders, all these old ass people would have to get into a room and they'd have to say, okay, well, instead of we're pretty sick of funding all these stimulus checks to the United States, but we're going to switch to the Chinese yuan. And everyone in Europe's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't like you, China. They have to have all these meetings, right? And it would never actually happen because no one's going to agree. Or, where's my tweet? Where's my tweet? Where's my tweet? Oh, man, I lost my tweet. Or they could just go to the thing that's already built. They could just pick what's already decentralized, already working, and it's already convenient to trade with. All these countries could easily just go, nope, we're not going to use the dollar. We're going to use Bitcoin. It's going to be easy. If you want to pay gas, just use Bitcoin. It's simple. You can send it anywhere in the world. It's instant. It's verified. It's better than gold. It's more secure than a dollar anyway. So why don't we just use that, right? And the other countries are like, yeah, I mean, that's pretty convenient. Like I could just pay you in Bitcoin instead, and we could just cut out all this stimulus shit. We could just stop all this stupid, crushing ourselves here against the U.S. Like we could just cut the U.S. out in 5 seconds. Which one are they going to choose? They're going to choose that, in my opinion. I think it's all going to Bitcoin. It's all going to Bitcoin. And I know a lot of you guys are like, you're like sick and tired of crypto right now. You're like,
crypto is dead. Crypto is dead. It's never going to go. Like, look at this thing. It's a Ponzi scheme. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down.
The reason that it's doing this, guys, is because for now, it's just another asset. People are trading it like it's just a risk asset. Like it's like the stock market. The stock market has been like this too, right? But what happens when it no longer is that? What happens when it's used for its actual purpose? Its actual purpose is to transfer value, to store value, and to transfer it quickly across borders. So it seems to me, I might be dumb, I might be biased, I don't know, but it seems like some smart people are thinking that, look, the doom loop has begun. We are seeing things that are irreparable. We have one more other thing before I go. I don't care if you guys don't want to watch any of the videos, go ahead. But one other reason I know this is going to happen is because, do you guys remember when the U.S. canceled Russia debt? U.S. freezes Russia debt, and remember this? Remember back here? Russia appears to default. Blah blah. Okay, what's the impact of a Russian debt default? Now this isn't it, but whatever. Basically what happened. Okay, back when we started this Russia-Ukraine thing. The first thing that the United States did is they seized all of the Russian U.S. Treasury holdings, which are basically U.S. dollars. Okay, so imagine if you had some money. Again, we're going to do the state analogy. Okay, you have some money in your bank account. You live in Florida. Okay, but instead you don't want all your money in Florida for whatever reason. Okay. You're Russia in this scenario, okay? So instead, you take some money, you store it in a bank in Georgia, okay? And then you do something in Florida to piss everybody off, right? You're like, oh, you pooped in the street or something. I don't know why you would do that, but you did that, okay? Then the bank in Georgia took your money, right? And they just froze it. I'm going to get off this so YouTube doesn't think I'm talking about Russia the whole time. Okay. I'm just going to make my face bigger. They froze it. They took your money from Georgia, that bank account in Georgia, and they just froze it. They made it zero. They made it worth nothing. Okay. Would you ever trust Georgia again? Would you ever store money in Georgia again? No, you wouldn't, right? That's what happened with Russia in this war, right? They had millions, billions of dollars of US dollars stored in the United States, and the United States said, "Nope, I'm taking them." The message that sent to the world, that's when the dollar broke. That was the moment the dollar broke. You're seeing the symptoms of it here now. It's happening now, like I've been showing you. But that's when it actually broke, because all of the world leaders saw that and they were like, I guess I can't hold US dollars anymore, right? Because they can just confiscate it. They can just turn off the faucet. So we screwed ourselves. We made a very bad policy decision. But after that moment on, the dollar is dead. The dollar is done. For all the reasons that I just outlined above, for all of these reasons that I just showed you, the dollar is no longer going to be the currency. And what that means is we're going to need an alternative currency. And I don't know much, but I don't trust any of these currencies. I don't trust the Sri Lankan, whatever the hell they're using. I don't trust the yuan. I don't trust any of these. I don't think anyone does. And I think the only way, especially in this volatile world that we live in, for anyone to agree is just to use the easiest solution. And the easiest solution is BTC. Okay? And so, I don't know, to answer the question, like, when are we going to hit $1 million? It's kind of impossible to predict, because you have all these humans involved. It's obviously extremely complicated, as I've laid out here. But I think we're at the beginning of the beginning. We're at the point where you see how this is going to play out based on math. It's simple math. It's simple human logic, right? That we can't stop printing money. If we continue to print money, all these other countries, Europe, all the other countries are going to get pissed off at us for giving out free stimulus checks and having no control over the money. They're going to get rid of us. They're going to stop using the dollar. The dollar will no longer be the reserve currency, which will mean that each currency is on its own, and the only way to actually preserve the value of that currency is to put your currency, dollars, yuan, Spanish, whatever the hell it's going to be, put those currencies into something that can't be manipulated. It's the only way. It's like, it's buying gold, it's buying Bitcoin. And so I think that's where we're going. I don't know when, but I think if you're not starting to consider buying some Bitcoin with that in mind, because sure, could we go to $10,000? Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. There's nothing really stopping it. Bitcoin's a free market. Sure. But like on this chart right here, let me just make it small so you can see. Like if what I just said plays out and the Bitcoin becomes the unit of account because of necessity, because it actually needs to be, otherwise everything, humanity dies, $10,000 is the downside. This is the downside here, okay? This little arrow. Can you see this? It's hard to see, I know. Downside is $10,000. And the upside is, we can't even see it on this chart. I'm going to put 1 million on this chart like Arthur Hayes is saying. Oh my gosh. He's right. He's right, guys. He's right. Like, holy crap, you can't even see it. You can't even, oh my gosh, look at this. This is 1 million up here. That's 1 million right there. This is the upside. You see that? Like, I don't know how else, you can't even tell. When you think about this, look at this. You got to send this video to one person if you're still watching right now. Look at that. That's your upside. Okay, let me make it bigger so you can see. I have to scroll a lot. This is Bitcoin price now. That's the downside. Oh my gosh. It'll be easier if I show it like this. Look. Look at this. Okay. Here's the downside right here. All right, ready for the upside? Here we go. I'm still going. Oh, I'm still going. Yep. Oh, that's 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, 600,000. Still going. Still going. I don't know what those marks are. Now we're at 1 million. Wow. All right. Well, sure, that was someone if it would help them. Thanks for watching this, guys. Let me know if that made sense. And I'd love to see you on Twitter or in the Discord in the NFT project. Anyway, love you guys. See you. Bye.